Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah, Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Alhamdulillah, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of Sunnahfollowers Hadith class. And this is the class wherein we discuss hadiths that relate or pertain to women in Islam. So these are all hadiths addressing issues that relate to women, or hadiths that address issues that pertain to women in Islam. And with that said, let's put the hadith up on the screen for tonight's discussion. And the source of this hadith is Tirmidhi. It's a Tirmidhi hadith, but it is authentic. And you can find other variations of this hadith in Muwatta and other of the Sitta as well. And this hadith is narrated by Ali, who was the son of Abi Talib, who was the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ali tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Indeed, Allah has made unlawful through suckling whatever He made unlawful through lineage." And a lot of Muslims today will read this hadith and they not understand what it's talking about. Well, it's talking about fostering, suckling another child. If a woman suckles a child who is under the age of 2 years old, that child becomes related to that woman like blood. Because the blood is just like, the milk is just like the semen. The milk is just like the blood. So this is why as Muslim women, we have to be very careful and keep a record of who you nurse. Because if you nurse a child, that means that child becomes your child, which means he becomes the brother and the sister of your children, which means that your children cannot marry them. Okay, your relatives become his relatives. Your relatives become her relatives. So we have to keep a record of that. And this is also why back in America in the early 2000s, there were some women asking about bottling their milk and sending their milk to babies in the hospitals, or babies, who wanted to be nursed. And we had to tell you because there were some men who told you that it was okay. And I remember Sheikh Morsi had to step in and say, no. You can't do that, because how can you keep a record of what babies are drinking your milk? Okay. And we have to be aware of that. Your child could grow up one day and try to marry someone who was nursed from your milk. So no, we don't donate our milk that way. Unless we can keep a record of who we're donating the milk to, we cannot donate our milk like that, guys. Because any child under the age of 2 that drinks your milk becomes your child. And again, it doesn't matter how many sucks a child gets. There's some people that say, oh, well, the child has to get sucked 2 times. One, no. Aisha said, even if it's 1 time. So forget about what people tell you. Oh, it has to be 5 suckles. It has to be 3 suckles. Anytime a child drinks your milk, that child becomes related to you. And that child becomes, your relatives become that child's relatives. And so that's what this hadith means, you know, let me put it up on the screen again. That's what this hadith means. It's clear. Whatever is unlawful through blood ties is unlawful through suckling, because the milk is the same as the semen, which is the same as the blood. Does everyone understand that? Okay, now that I've explained this hadith, let's go ahead and open it up for discussion. Anyone would like to share?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
This is why it is so important for us to learn as much as we can about Islam, to learn about what we're supposed to do and not supposed to do, because then there can become issues in the future that you weren't expecting, because just because you didn't know anything, you didn't know any better. Nobody ever told you, and you just didn't have the knowledge. I mean, for example, there was a child, and this child mother became ill and she couldn't nurse the baby. And I volunteered to nurse the baby because I was nursing my own child. But because I didn't have knowledge of Islam and did not know, you know, how deep this is, this is more than just a favor. This child, even though he's an adult, could never marry my daughter. And I didn't find that out until I was an adult and had studied more. And then I said, oh, now I think it'd be right to find out where this child, or I should say man, is, because that was what, maybe 30 years ago. And so I have to ask myself, I don't know where these people are or where he is, and to avoid this is conflicting. This is conflicting because now I know that I'm a foster mother to this child, to this man. And what can I do about it? You know, and so it's so important to study and learn each aspect of motherhood in Islam and each part of Islam. It's very important.
Exactly, guys. And again, we in English, we use terms here in America that don't seem, we'll say foster mother, and it means a person that takes care of a child that's not his. That's not what it means in Arabic, in our religion. You know, this is a woman a child who's drank from your milk. So you become his mother. You're just like his real mother. He can call you mom and everything. That's your son. He's a son. He becomes part of you, you know, which is also why there's no surrogacy in Islam. That's why surrogacy is haram and dirty, because you're mixing blood, mixing stuff. Okay, so yes, you know, this is something, and that's why I remember back in the years 2008, 2009, when we had a bunch of women here from Texas, and they were wanting to donate their milk to some hospital in Texas because they had children that needed breast milk. The imams down there had told them they could do it, but I told them they couldn't, that this was haram, because how are you going to keep check? And then I had to call and have Sheikh Morsi tell them too, because they didn't want to take it from me. And then these women went on a rampage against me. Oh, Layla's no good. Layla's this, and they gave their milk anyway. Shame on you, because you don't know who those children are that drank it. You got a bunch of kids out there that you don't even know, and you better pray that your children that you have don't come in contact with them and end up marrying them, because that's a great possibility. Okay, go ahead, Sister Precious.
Okay, so I don't know if you mentioned it, but what if you only breastfed that child for like a couple of days, or
It
like
don't
a day
matter.
or something?
It don't matter if you
Okay.
breastfed him for 1 second.
Okay.
It
And so
doesn't
you
matter
said,
how many days, it doesn't matter how many sucks. And if the child is under the age of 2 years old, he or she is yours now. It don't matter how long you suckled it. It don't matter how many drinks he took. It don't matter if he played in it or what.
okay. And
Muslim women have to be careful with their milk.
okay. So one last.
Oh yeah, back in the Prophet's days, they kept a track. The wet nurses knew who they suckled. They kept a track. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and one,
oh,
go ahead, Sister Sabrina. I was just gonna ask one more question.
okay, so that's why it's so important for us to know who we get our knowledge from, you know, because we could be getting the wrong knowledge, because that's what I was told. Well, you're a wet nurse, that's all, you know, and that's what wet nurses do. And they didn't go beyond that, you know, like the lineage or anything like that. They just, because I didn't get my knowledge from my information from the right person. And this was an imam. But I thought, you know, that he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, wet nurses always keep a record. They always kept a record of who they suckled. Back in those days, in the this was the dark ages. And Arabic people weren't the only one who had wet nurses. The English did too, the Vikings did too, the Romans, the Greeks. But every wet nurse kept a record of who she nursed. The Romans kept a record. The Greeks kept a record. That's how you can open up a history book and read that King Henry VIII was suckled by this person, and so was William IV. And so they keep a record. They kept a record of that stuff, because even for the Christians, that made them related. That was part of their belief system too. So, but again, we're living in the years, the 20th century, 21st century. Muslims are not that educated. We don't know much about anything. We just take it as it goes. But yes, back in those days when they had wet nurses always kept a record. Even the Greeks, the Egyptians kept a record. All the people kept a record of who they nursed.
Now, should we take care of those kids or that child that we nurse? Like
that child has a parents. Their parents take care of it, but if their parents can't, then you can, yeah. They're mothers to you. But if their parents die or their parents can't take care of them or something, then yes, you can, because you know you can take them and they're mahrams to you and they're mahrams to your children.
Okay.
You know, you don't have to worry about separating them, because they're your, like the Hadith says, your family is their family. They're mahrams to you and to your children. Yeah. So y'all be careful of that suckling, that nursing. You know, I know it here where I live. The women didn't know either. They nursed each other's kids, and the kids grew up and got married. Then when they finally got the real people to come here to teach Islam this truthfulness, those men of knowledge had to tell them, all of y'all marriages are not legal. Y'all need to divorce immediately. You have to separate immediately, because you are not lawful in marriage, because y'all were suckled. And that was a heartful thing to see all these people who had to separate and no longer be together because they were never lawful for each other anyway. And that's a sad thing. That's what happens. You know, ignorance is no excuse. We're supposed to learn. And this is something, guys, that we have to understand. Seeking knowledge of Islam is an obligation upon us all. We're obligated. Allah is not going to accept the excuse, why didn't you know that any child you suckle became a part of you? He's going to say, didn't you live, how long were you Muslim? Weren't you Muslim all your life? Didn't you live 50 years? And you mean to tell me you lived on, I allowed you to live for 50 years and you didn't learn that? We're not, you know, Allah will only excuse us for not knowing things temporarily. We're supposed to know the lawful and unlawful, guys. We not supposed to stand in a stupor all our lives. Stay in a stupor until death. He's going to ask you, what were you learning? What were you doing? Watching television? Sitting in chat rooms, wasting your time? That's why the prophet said, be careful seeking beneficial knowledge. All the time that we spend in chat rooms, talking about psychology, talking about relationships, that's going to all be thrown back in our face when we in that grave. Allah is going to say, instead of spending 8 hours in a chat room arguing about Islam, you should have took 5 minutes to learn that any child you suckle becomes a part of you. You wasted your time seeking that which is now of no benefit. That's why I tell y'all, that's why as a daya, I'm kind of strict on you guys with that. I'm always reminding y'all to check, be careful how you spend your time. Even myself as a daya, I don't get to watch TV that much, because when I turn that TV on, I'm like, oh my God, I can be spending this time learning some more. I can go and learn some more stuff to teach the people. You know, we have to take care of our time to make sure that we're learning our religion, because seeking the true knowledge is an obligation on us. Allah is going to ask you why you didn't know. You learned about relationships. You learned how to play Xbox. You learned how to play Dig-a-Dug and Pac-Man, but you didn't know the lawful and the unlawful. Astaghfirullah. Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead. That's why I like these hadiths too, because it refreshes our memory. Some of us forget, it refreshes us and helps us to learn and keep it.
Question.
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had a mother from breastfeeding, alhamdulillah, Halima. He has one mother, only one?
No, he was breastfed by another woman too. A lot of people don't know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not just nursed by Halima. He was also nursed by a woman named Thabiba, I think her name was. She also was the woman that suckled Hamza. That's why him and Hamza were not just uncles, but also brothers. The Prophet was fostered also by Thabiba, whatever her name was, Thamima or something. She also suckled Hamza. Yeah, they kept a record of that. Halima was not the first woman, the only woman to suckle him. He was suckled by Thamima, the same woman that suckled Hamza. That's how him and Hamza were related. And also she was the woman, that's why him and Hamza were related. Yeah.
And from these mothers, we have brothers and sisters. Milk.
Yeah. Yes. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a lot of sisters. Who can remember the name of the one sister that we talked about in a previous class? Test y'all's knowledge. Who can remember the name? Famous story. The one sister, she fought her way after the Battle of Hunain. Y'all remember her now? When she saw all her people killed and mutilated on the battlefield, after the Battle of Hunain, when the Muslims had killed all the people and won, she said, I demand to see Muhammad. Y'all remember her name? That was his sister. She said, I demand to see Muhammad now. She said, I am his sister. They said, you ain't his sister. The Prophet ain't got no sisters. She said, I am his sister. I demand to see him now. So they marched her they went to the Prophet first. They said, oh, Prophet of Allah, there's some crazy woman, some crazy old woman claiming to be your sister, demanding to see you. And the Prophet said, what's her name? Y'all don't remember her name? They said her name is Shema. And when they told him her name, he started crying. He said, Shema? He said, bring her here. And so they went back and got her. And as she walked to the Prophet, she was punching him, Umar, and punching Ali, punching him like this with her hands. And then when she got to the prophet, she stood before him, and the tears rolled down his face. And he ran to her, he hugged her, he kissed her, he took off his cloak, spread it on the ground, and had her sit. And then he looked at them and said, "This is Shema. She's my sister. She was the oldest daughter of Halima who suckled me." And she looked at Umar and him and said, "I told you, I am his sister." And then she looked at him, she said, "Muhammad, you need to know something. Your men treated me badly. They dragged me through the battlefield and ridiculed me." The prophet looked at Umar, he said, "Did you drag the women through the battleground? And they sat there and saw their menfolk killed?" Umar said, "Yes." The prophet said, "Shame on you. We don't drag women through the battlefield to see they're dead." And so the prophet grabbed her hands and started kissing her hands. And then what he did was the prophet freed all her people, the people that were taken as captives of war. He freed them all. And he offered her, he said, "Stay with me, Shema. Stay with me and convert to Islam." She looked at him and said, "No, I'd rather go back to my people, but it was so good to see you, Muhammad." So he let her free and all her tribe and sent them away with half of the spoils of the war. That hadith is authentic. The entire story is in Sahih Bukhari. So yes, the prophet had foster sisters and brothers, and that's one of the most famous ones. So I want you guys to be careful. Anyone that you breastfeed becomes your brother and becomes your son or your daughter. So you have to be careful. Keep a record. Learn the deen. Any other questions? That's why it's important to learn the Sunnah. When you learn the Hadith, you're learning the history of Islam. And all those verses of the Quran make all the sense in the world. Yes, Shema. And we don't know to this day. A lot of people ask, did she convert to Islam? We don't know. There's nothing else mentioned about her. We don't know if she ended up converting or not, but the prophet sent her away and released all her tribe and gave them half the war booty. Yeah, she was suckled. She was Halima's oldest daughter. She was older than the prophet. Yeah.
He has also Anisa, sister.
That's another
Anisa.
one too. Yeah. He had
Abdullah. He has Abdullah is another brother, Abdullah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, and also they say, I don't know how, some of the companions said that him and Abu Sufyan were suckled. Him and Abu Sufyan were suckled by the same woman too. That first one, Tabib, whatever her name was, Thuwayba, I think her name was Thuwayba. That Abu Sufyan was also suckled by her with him, and so was Hamza and a few others. Some even say, Abu Ubaidah too. I don't know if that's true though. But yeah. And so y'all need to keep track of that, who you nurse. Like I said, back in those days, and the Arabs weren't the only one nursing. All the people in the world back in them days nurses, the Persians, but they all kept a record because they all believed in that same system, that when you nurse, you become related. It's just that we Muslims today, we don't understand anything.
And Ali radiallahu anhu told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Can you marry your uncle Hamza daughter?" He said no, because he's not only uncle, he's also brother from breastfeeding. So I cannot marry my uncle daughter, because my uncle also is my brother from breastfeeding.
Yes.
Yeah. He told him. Then he said, okay, sorry. He doesn't know.
Yeah. And that's why we say that Abu Sufyan was not suckled by him, because he married Abu Sufyan's daughter. Yeah. So, but it's a fact about Hamza. You know, Hamza and him were suckled by the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There is no hadith about Abi Sufyan.
It's
Just
not
Ibn al-Qayyim said in his book, but it's not.
very
It's
good.
not clear.
Yeah,
No.
that's why I tell you guys, be careful when y'all read Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir was not one of the companions. Ibn Kathir was not did not stand out over any of them. And that's why I tell you guys, the people of knowledge, we don't use Ibn Kathir's tafsir for anything. We use the tafsir, the companions. Y'all understand that? That's why I'm always telling y'all, be careful reading Ibn Kathir. I know he's all y'all have in English. Well, we got other tafsirs as in English now too, but his is the worst. Because the people of knowledge, we do not use Ibn Kathir's tafsir because he was not a companion. Okay, there's other companions tafsirs we use. Yeah, go ahead.
Ibn Kathir, he used a lot of Israelis
Yes.
narration, which is not clear and confusing people. He used a lot of this Israelis comments and narrations and stories. He bring it from the Jewish.
Yes.
But I don't know, because Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we hear from the Jewish a lot of like hadith from Moses and all that stuff, Jesus. He told him, don't worry about what Jewish saying. Take what I said, and this will be more than enough for you.
Right.
You don't need to worry about Israelis and Christians, what they are saying, even if it's right.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Take the Quran and the Hadith and Sunnah from my side, and they'll be enough, because I am the last messenger and prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I in Quran Kareem, we include everything you need. And in the Sunnah Nabawiyya Sharifa and authentic Hadith, there is enough information and knowledge for you to follow, to be able to enter, to be able to enter Jannah, paradise, and avoid Jahannam, nar. Jazakumullah khair.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, Brother Haytham. That is so true. You know, so like I said, that's why I tell you, we don't read their books, and that is why Ibn Kathir is not one of the best. He puts a lot of the Hebrew stuff, and I don't use any of his books, to be honest. I don't use his stories of the prophets or anything, because he mixes the Jewish traditions in there, and there's no need for that. Yeah, good. Thank you for that, Brother Haytham. Any other questions or comments? It's always good to have Brother Haytham comment too, because
also not only Ibn Kathir, also there is like many people like Ibn Kathir, and their book is being translated to English. I can't I remember a lot of names, but they always use like stories from different, like from the Christians and from the Jewish and the Hebrews. And as I told you again, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu told in one hadith, authentic hadith, told Umar and told, I think, another companion, don't worry about these Jewish and Christians and other people of the book. Might right, might wrong. We don't need to go and investigate or chase them. We don't need them. Alhamdulillah, I received enough information from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have the Quran al-Kareem. In the Quran Kareem, we have a lot of information from the previous holy books, like the Moses books and the Jesus books and other books. And we have also information enough for us. And we have Hadith Sharif, authentic. And if you have any question, you can talk to me and I will answer you the questions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide his slaves and his people. Example, Imam al-Bukhari. Allah sent him, Allah used him to collect all hadith and make sure to make a strong reference. And also Imam Muslim and another also, like there are 6 imams who are collection of authentic hadith. So they really did a great job. They were traveling. They were traveling in the heat, in the cold weather. They did a lot of work to collect this hadith. And with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are not missing any information. Alhamdulillah. We are not, Islam is a complete religion. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it in the final khutbah, Hajj khutbah. I completed the religion for you. I completed all religion for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what needs you to know, there are around 20 or 40,000 people. This is my final, and I completed the religion for you. I am a witness that I witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I deliver the message complete, missing nothing. So we don't need to go to Jewish or Hebrew or Christian or any book and start making drama. And we have the Quran Kareem and Sunnah Nabawiyya Sharifa and the authentic Hadith. And he said it 3 times, oh Allah, witness that I deliver the complete Islamic message 3 times. And he told them that, so Allah used me to deliver the Islam message to you. Now every Muslim is responsible to learn Islam religion and to deliver it to his family members, like his family members and relatives and community and friends and colleagues and co-workers. So every Muslim is completely responsible to keep learning Islam and teaching Islam. So it's not, everybody has to try his best to become a Muslim teacher as much as possible and keep learning. And as you said at the beginning, and no waste our time on TV, movie and drama and all that. We need to be extremely careful how you, after you finish your work, you do your prayers, you sit down and say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem and attend halaqah like this one, Islamic study, and learn about Islam and talk about it. It's not only learning, you need to start talking about it, because if you don't talk about it, you will forget the information.
That's true.
So you learn and you talk to anyone, start talking. You can come out and you see someone at a park standing, say hello, how are you, and talk to him about Islam in a nice way so he can listen to you. Just start, say, oh, weather nice, oh, Allah, He created the weather, and start giving him information, he will listen. And Allah make it easy. Jazakallah khair, barakallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing that, Brother Haytham. And that's true, guys. And this is one of the things, because like I say, you guys are learning a lot of hadiths, because that's my specialty, is hadiths. Okay. And a lot of times this knowledge will go in one ear and out the other if we're not implementing it, putting it to use, and talk about it. What you guys are learning here, share it with your family first and foremost, and then share it with the Muslims that are close to you. Tell them, did you know that once a woman suckles a child under the age of 2, that child becomes related to them? We become mahrams to each other. They become part of that woman's family. Try to share the information that you guys are gaining here, with other Muslims. Just talk about it with them, so that way it doesn't go in one ear and out the other. You guys should have remembered the story of Shema, his sister, because we've had quizzes on that and we've talked about her many times. It's one of my favorite hadiths. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Sabrine, you wanted something else to say?
No, it's just that I have said it. I wish that I had known, but now that I do know, it's not just knowledge that I can pass on to others, but it's things that I might be able to do myself to make it right.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, you're not obligated to take care of the children, because the children, their parents are obligated to take care of them and all of that. But it's to know as far as the marriage,
Yes.
the mahram ties. That's how we preserve our marriage ties. That's how we keep our blood from being incested and messed up, So it's just a matter of that. you know, so you don't have to take care of those kids. Their parents are responsible for them. But you know that your children cannot marry him and he can't marry them and all of that. It's the ties of lineage, as the prophet said in the Hadith, it's the lineage ties.
And I do know some Muslims that I was introduced to them in the first place because of that, you know, that would know, that know them, the parents.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Yeah,
you know, I
he's a
could
mahram to you. Like, say, for example, you wanted to make Hajj, he can take you on Hajj, you know? Yeah, if you were sick, he could come in, you could touch him, he could touch you and hug you and kiss you or whatever. You can touch him, he's a mahram. That's what it is, just the blood, the family tie. You know, he's a mahram to you. Okay, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining and participating in this session. And I want to remind everybody that, and I'm working on it now, tomorrow we have the Living the Sunnah class. That's our new class. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to do a 3-part series on the dangers and addiction of the social media. And tomorrow we're going to focus in on what is it that attracts the people. That's going to be the topic tomorrow. It'll be myself, Dr. Ibrahim Jamali, and Brother Haytham. We're going to be speaking about what it is that attracts the people to social media. That's going to be the first part. Then next week we'll do second part, then the third part. We're going to break it down in parts like we did the marriage, because this is such a broad topic. Yes, Brother Haytham.
I just remember just now that I asked myself, what about the new Muslims? It's very important that we have a guideline for the new Muslims, that when he become a Muslim, to tell him about this breastfeeding, tell him, because his mother is not a Muslim, okay? So we have to tell him, can you check with your mother if she did any breastfeeding to anybody that you don't know, or maybe you know, but just double check with your mother, because maybe she know the name of the people she breastfeeding when he was a baby. Like she was breastfeeding him and breastfeeding another 2-3 other girls, because sometimes these girls maybe become a Muslim or
yes,
or not, but I don't want him to end up marrying them by mistake, because he doesn't know that there is a breastfeeding. It's good to have a guidelines for these new Muslims to check with their mothers. Did you remember you breastfeed anybody? Do you know who is that person? Can you remember his name? So it's good to be aware of it and be careful. And it doesn't harm to ask the questions. We can, anybody, even a Muslim, can ask his mother, did you did any breastfeeding to any of the children, like any children, or especially the females? It's good to check with the mothers. Everybody check with his mother and make sure he knows the information from his mother.
this is a good idea, guys. Yeah, check with everybody, even for those people, yeah, that ain't convert. Everybody check. Yeah, especially American Muslims. Check and see if your mom breastfed anyone else. It's good to know. Oh, and also, guys, I don't want to forget, don't forget at the end of this month, on the 29th, here at Sunnahfollowers, we're having our 2nd annual masquerade ball. And what that is you guys can find a mask and put your mask on and come in here, and we will judge who has the best mask. There's prizes. First prize is a $75 gift card. A second prize is a cake. Third prize is a $50 gift card. And then we have a fourth place prize too. So that's January 29th, you know. So if you don't have a mask, make sure you guys order one from off of Amazon. They don't cost much. And then decorate yourselves like you did last year, and we'll see who will win the prizes. Okay, and also don't forget Thursday. This Thursday will be part 2. I have a lot of people asking about my class, How to Be Loved by Allah. That class will be Thursday at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, we have Living the Sunnah, and we'll speak about what is it that attracts people? What is it that causes people to fall into this addiction for social media. That'll be tomorrow at 8. And then Thursday is how to be loved by Allah. And then, you know, Friday we have the Quran Tajweed with Dr. Saeed from El Azhar University. And we have Dr. Asim and them here this weekend too. So just, you know, we have a lot of classes and lectures for you guys to try to keep everyone. I know we're dealing with COVID. A lot of places have closed down again because of this COVID. The COVID is not going anywhere. You know, you want to spend your time remembering Allah. You know, I'm trying to offer classes every day, different times of the day to keep you, you know, in remembrance of Allah. And maybe Allah will lift this virus away, you know, if people would turn back to him. So just make sure you guys are following the schedule. And don't forget that the my homepage, Sunnahfollowers.net, has the schedule. That movie is the schedule of classes and the days. Make sure you guys go there to see the schedule. And please, when you visit to see the schedule, please click on that Make a Donation tab and put a little donation in the box for us so we can try to keep on bringing more beneficial knowledge to you. So I want to thank everybody for joining and participating. Inshallah, the Zoom room is open. Feel free to join here and hang out while I try to work on my stuff for tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.